I bent up this piece of 1.5" DOM tubing to match the top tube that we bent up yesterday with just a little shallower angle because I want the distance between the mounting points and the center line of the tube to be a little bit shorter than this. So we need to bend it a little less so that we are on center of the frame rail. This is going to get connected to the frame rail like this. It's going to get bent back, I think, a little bit more than the angle that this plane creates. It's going to get chopped up, so it's really going to end up being, you know, maybe 1 inch or 2 below the height of the radiator. Certainly don't want it to hang too low so that it gets caught on anything. But now we want to figure out the angle to cut into this, and then once we get that set, we'll clean up the bottom of the frame rails and we will weld this in place, and then we will start on what will probably be our final 2 tubes. So let me grab my trusty little angle finder here, and I'm just gonna measure this up based on the one that's already in there and make it a little steeper. Just about that much. So that's the angle that we want to cut into the tube here. I think since we're cutting close enough to the bend, we will be able to get away with it in the bandsaw. You always have to worry about the tube itself being in the way of the arm of the bandsaw, and actually looking at this, we might just have to cut this the old-fashioned way with an angle grinder. But let's get set up in here and see if we'll be able to make that chop. I'll just set that right there for now. And this tube I grabbed some 1/8 inch for, since this has a probability of hitting stuff on the trail or when I'm just out and about, maybe a deer. So instead of the side pieces we just made were thinner, like 0.65 or 0.63 or whatever, this is, I think, 1/8 inch wall, so a little more structural. So now we need to see if this can be cut. Nope. You can always cut it this way if your leg is long enough, but then you really only have one chance at it, because you know, you need to be able to have enough to clamp in there. And so I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that. Yeah, let's do some figuring. So I'm going to measure center to center on the frame. I'll measure center to center on the frame rails, and we'll see where on our tube that corresponds with. That will be the intersection of where we put the notch. So to measure center to center, it's easy just to measure outside edge to inside edge instead of having to get all precise about it. There's a lot of other ways. You can do outside to outside and then take off the width of it, whatever. If you just do left side of the frame rail, left side of the frame rail, that gets you your center to center. So 29.5. Let's take this tube and see where our 29.5 center to center is going to be. It looks like 29.5 center to center is going to be about 1.5 inches cut off of where that is. I think we're going to go full 1 3/4 inches. Frame rail's almost 2 inches wide, but it has a radius edge to it. So for 1 1/2 inches, there's a little bit of wiggle room. So we'll measure 1 3/4 on here. We'll get our trusty little tape measure. We'll mark this all the way around. Flip it over. I'll just mark an 1 3/4 over here again. And we'll mark that. And that lines up real nice. Do the same with this side. Find that mark we made. Get our tape wrapped around. Square it up. Flip it to the other side. Get our tape. Measure, square it up. And let's see here. I'll finish this off because this was pretty bad. This was not very good mark. All right. Oh, my pen. So we'll revisit the. Oh, I'm getting hungry. We'll get this cut, get this welded in, and I think it's time for lunch break. We'll get the angle set here. Now there is a little bit of play so that you can get to it, get angles both ways, but this is the way it swings. But there's enough play that you can get about this much angle in the other direction. So we'll have to use our angle finder and see if that's enough. If it isn't, which it isn't, you either have to get creative with your clamping, which can be a pain in the ass, or you cut it by hand. I think we are going to shy away from cutting it by hand, and we are going to just try to get by the limitations of the machine by basically shimming the opposite cut, or we can take one of the two bolts out of the clamp here, set the angle we need, and use like a C-clamp to clamp it where we want. So I'm going to see if this will even work, and it won't, because you can see where our mark is right here, and then where the line's going to come down. We just aren't going to be able to do that with this machine. So one way of doing it would be with the chop saw. I do have a chop saw. I hate using it, but I think that's what we're going to do to ensure that we get the same angle, and then there'll just be a lot more cleanup afterwards. It leaves a lot more burrs. It puts a lot more heat into the tube. but I think that's going to be our only option. So let me get that out, get that set up, and we'll make some noise and some dust. We're going to get it set up at the angle we need. I'm not even sure this is going to work, actually. I think we might run into the same problem as the other one. Let me see before we get too crazy if it's going to even clear. Hey, and look, there's not even a damn blade in this thing. I wonder if I think I have a blade somewhere, but let's see. I wonder if it would even, let's just roll an arbitrary angle in here. Well, let's set it up at the angle that we would want. Let's call that the angle. Let's pretend there's a blade in there. And let's see, I bet the machine, yeah, see it's gonna run into it. You can move the clamp all the way up, and then it looks like it might clear, but I don't know if it's going to clear the handle. That will work if I can get it. If I can get it set up here. We're just going to have to do some eyeballing, lots of eyeballing. Let's see if this will be a winner. Of course, this is only doing it in one direction, and then we'll have to do it the other direction. That poses another set of problems. Let me go see if I have a disc for this guy. Yep, looks like I got a pretty new one. Not sure why the disc was off. Maybe this disc isn't going to work very good. I guess we will find out shortly enough. This diameter is not correct, so I wonder if maybe I busted the center out of this. Or if maybe if I'm missing a piece to the puzzle. No. Well, I don't know if I dare try to square this up. Get it central by doing the squinty eye technique. Let me check a few other places and see if I have a disc anywhere else. Looks like this is it. I'm going to give it a quick try. It's probably going to be a miserable failure. But better than cutting it with a angle grinder or sawzall, in my opinion. If we can get the disc centered, which, yeah, I don't know about that, huh? Luckily, wow, there's actually, the graphic on here has a radius that actually matches up with the one on the saw pretty well, so I think if I get it close, we'll see if that is going to work or not. So, let me see. I'm going to put some glasses on, and I'm going to put some welding gloves on in case this thing explodes on me. We're going to give it a try. Why the heck not? We're going to give it a try. I mean, what could go wrong? That's a famous last word scenario. I'm gonna cut just inside of that black line there. And we want to get this thing straight up and down. I'm going to have to hold on tight to it while I cut. And cut slow and steady. Sketchy perhaps. So now the key is, am I going to be able to cut it the other way? We will find out if the clamp will. Nope, I don't think that's going to work. There's got to be a way to do this. I know in the past I used to be quite the expert with the chop saw, but as soon as I got a bandsaw, I haven't even touched this thing. So it's going to need way more angle than it can give me. I'm going to undo one of these bolts and see if we can force more angle into it. Oh yeah. So we'll just have to use a clamp on it, and then we're also going to have to see if there's a spot in the motion where it will clear the tube. So we might have to, yeah, that'll work. We'll just have to clamp it with the with this part way down, get it out of the way. So I'll move this back as far as I can, seems to be the best option. Let's get it to the angle we need. And now it's finding a clamp that is going to work and not give me too much trouble. I'm curious if, no, I don't think that's going to work. Might just have to use one of these vice grips. And this distance I don't think is going to come on close. And I think we're just going to have to use a long version of this guy, which I have right here, but it's got a little more length here, so it's going to kind of lift the saw up off the ground. That is fine though, as long as we can get this secure enough that it doesn't move. We'll have to He-Man that, double check our angle. I like it. Let's see if we can make this happen. So we got to put that past it, get this angle right. I'm going to move it a little bit past there. I think that's looking pretty good. We're going to start to clamp it. I'm just going to have to hold on to this thing like hell. Because clamping it moves it. I really almost need a clamp on the other side as well. I think that's what we're going to do. I'll go grab that other clamp I had. Double check this angle again. I like it, it didn't change, but we're gonna need to clamp the other side. If we can just grab onto the end there, that would, oh, come on. I think we might be able to get, there we go. That's not going to be ideal. I think we're going to be cutting through. Well, I think we might just get it if I can get this clamp slid to the rearmost portion. I don't have another long clamp like the other one, but I think if I can get this tight enough, it is going to work for one quick cut. Alright, we're going to roll with it. That's what you do. I got a decent amount of tools, but I don't have them all, and along the way you kind of learn to use what you got, get creative. I only have a tiny air compressor just to run my my tubing bender and to be able to, like blow off the counters and other stuff. I've never had any type of air tools for mechanics. I've always had to rely on some elbow grease. Now let's make this up and down. All right. I'm going to try to hold this in place right there while I get my gloves on. And this is another situation where you want to let the tool do the cutting. Don't want to force it through this. The blade is not exactly centered, and these clamps are not able to be that tight. So we'll go slow and see what happens, right? Alright, we got our cuts. I'm going to take a angle grinder, clean them up, and we'll see how we fit. That was a little precarious, but it worked out. For the most part, we'll see. Hopefully we don't have to cut it anymore. Come on, dude, it's got to be plugged in. Too much stuff going on my table. Alright, I'm gonna move this out of the way. Ow, fucking clamp just bit me. Let's see how she fits. If it fits good, then I'll clean up the area, put the chop saw away, and we will clean up the bottom of the frame rails and weld it in. Looks like, whoop, that's the wrong direction. Alright. Looks like we got it pretty good as far as on center. As far as the angle goes, I think it's pretty dang good. I like it. We are going to roll with this, I think. The notches aren't perfect, so I'm going to buzz down the inside of each of them. But first, I'm going to clean up this area. We'll get this fit, get the frame rails cleaned, and I'll see you in a bit. The lower hoop is adjusted. The chop saw got me most of the way there, but it wasn't perfect, so I took it over to my belt sander, got everything adjusted, got this jack here just to kind of support it from underneath while I square it up. I'm just going to worry about the side to side. I'm going to put a tack on this. I want it to be in line with the down tube there, so I'll get it as squared up as I can, get it parallel with that, roast a tack over here, then I'll go over here and continue squaring that up as well. And once it's tacked in, we'll burn it in, and then we'll be on our way to making the last couple of bars. And then we can get started on the mounts for the fog lights, the turn signals, and making a brush guard. So I'll let that hang there. I'll get my welder turned on. Lay out my leads. Get that clamped on. Get out of there, you son of a gun. Alright. We'll get this in place as best as I can, centered side to side. Get it in line with the tube up top. This is just going to be an eyeball situation. There are certainly more accurate ways to do it. Alright, we're going to roast a tack in there. Hopefully that was just a tack. I forgot to turn my helmet on, so I completely blinded myself. And I got a whole bunch of extra welding wire on there. Looks like that was a good enough tack for what we need for right now. Now I can put a little more pressure on that. And I'm going to take a tape measure and measure from the frame stub to where it's mounted, just shy of 1 3/4. Needs to come back this way. That's just shy of 1 3/4. I'm going to stand up. I want it to be parallel with this tube, which it is. I want it to be level compared to the cross member, which it is. Time to roll another tack in here. All right. I'm going to step back and make sure that's exactly what I want. It's looking pretty darn good. Let's roast her in place. All right, check that weld out. Not too bad. Little boogery on the frame rail still. Kind of hard to clean off the paint there where there's two things that come together. I could have broke out the wire wheel, but I didn't. Let me position it in a better place here so I can see. All right, I'll move you guys over here. And that guy's welded in. Oh. Ground lead here, turn the switch off. Alright, that welded in alright. So, now what I want to do, we can take a step back and give a look at it. So we got the top tube, top hoop, bottom hoop, and we have two hellas going in here. But now what I want to do is make a brush guard, basically. So I want to, from the end of the bend radius here, weld the 1.5 inch tube from here up to probably either this intersection or right next to it. And that will create a nice look for our panel that we will put in the middle. Gonna bead roll it and then add some dimples along the bottom for some airflow to the radiator. There will be plenty of air flowing between here, all around there. It is not going to be an issue as far as airflow. If it is, I'm gonna make that, it's gonna be an aluminum panel, so obviously I'll have to make some tabs to mount it, so it'll be removable. So if the car starts running hot, which I really doubt it's going to, I can always add some more holes in it, or use a piece of mesh, or just kind of have a rethink. Let's make some tubes here. I'll grab my tape measure if I can find it. It is right here. We're going to use some 1.5 inch. This is 1.5 inch. This is 1 3/4 inch. We'll use some 1.5 inch. We're going to go from this intersection down. Come on now. Down to here. So it looks like that's 17 inches. We got to add a little bit more for the notch. Looks like if we cut it at 18, that'll just be the perfect amount to throw notches in it. So I'll cut 2 tubes at 18 inches. I'm also going to use some tape. That will make it easy to visualize and to use my trusty angle finder to get the angle that we want. So I'm going to put a piece of tape where the tube's going to go. We'll get it right on this intersection and get it right about there, and then we want it to be right where the end of the bend is, just right at the end. And that will be the tube. I'm going to step back, have a look at that, see if that is visually what I'm going to be going for, or if maybe I want to have a rethink. I think I'm going to put another piece of tape on the other side, and I just found one issue. That's one reason why taping out your ideas is a pretty good idea. You can see that right here we have an interference issue with the line that comes off for the AC. I'm curious if I can move the whole assembly. Oh, come on, man. See if I can move the whole assembly back. This is trying to attach onto some welds that haven't been cleaned up that much. If I can undo the mount, add some spacers in it, and push it back so it's tighter against the radiator on this side, that might give us the clearance we need. I'd hate to put bends in these tubes. It wouldn't look right, in my opinion. I could get crazy and take it off, shorten it, resolder it, TIG weld it or something, but the AC system is charged, I believe, so I don't really want to go that route. Other thing I could do is move the tube more inboard so it avoids that, but then they're going to be a little more straight up and down. I think the panel will look good being more of a trapezoid, I think that's the right geometric shape, than just being a square. I think it'll just visually look a little better. And so I have a choice to make now. I don't know if moving this is going to be enough. I mean, I can fit my whole hand behind there, really, so if I unbolted that, I very well could make some more movements. Let me grab a 10 mil. We'll unbolt that and see. And hopefully I'll be able to get most of this done today. I'd like to get these tubes done, welded in, go grab some lunch, come back. It would be nice to get the ends chopped off and dealt with and capped, and then maybe mount the make some brackets and mount the hellas, and then stop there. Got a lot of stuff to do with being a homeowner. I gotta mow the lawn. I worked 68 hours this week, so I got to catch up on laundry and all that fun stuff. Let me see. That bracket is going to go behind it, so actually I wonder if I can flip it. Let me see if I can unbolt this without crushing my hand. I don't even know if the AC works on this thing. I haven't even tried it yet. There's always the option of removing the AC, but that sounds horrible. We get a lot of humidity in Minnesota here because we have like 13,000 lakes. So when it gets hot, which it does sometimes, usually it comes with quite a bit of humidity. Alright, let me see if I can move that bracket. Will this move out of the way of the tube? Looks like it will still hit it barely. That will be super close. I think I might try something stupid and try to bend that. Let me see what this bracket looks like. There goes the rubber for it. So I think I can move, it'll be really hard to attach, but I might be able to move it to the back side of this bracket and push the condenser further back. The other option is to not go from this intersection, but to go more vertically. Of course, I can always move the bottom in too, but I could do something more like this. And then once that's moved in, that's plenty of clearance. That's probably even enough clearance as is, and I could reuse that bracket. So that's still enough of a trapezoid for me. I don't know how much I'm really in love with that, but it does solve an issue. Let me tweak on this. See what we can do as far as this tube now. That'll work. There's this stupid horn that I am going to relocate. I'll take it off and paint it because it's ugly. But I think we're going to go with this. Instead of coming from this intersection, we're going to roll the tube out just that little bit. Clear this. It'll just make life easier. So let's do this. I will take another quick measurement here, center to center. Doesn't really need to be quite center to center. I think 17.5-inch tube is going to be fine. So cut 2 of those, and then we'll notch the bottom angle into them, which is going to be this degree. So I'll cut the tubes and I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so I got the tube cut. I got the right side tacked in place. It clears the condenser, or whatever the hell that's called there, nicely. I think I'll be able to even put the stock bracket back on without any modifications. Got the stupid chrome horn out of the way. So now I need to mirror this to the other side. I butted the bottom up against our bend start line that we had, so it'll be easy to get the bottoms set. The top, I'm just going to measure center to center to the peak of this and the peak of that. And that'll be accurate enough. Looks like it's just about 2 7/8. So we'll transfer that, just make a little mark. That just lets us know if the tube is going to be, opposite and equal. You know, because you have the notches, and if it's a little too long, it'll still fit right, it just won't be at the same angle. I could also use my angle finder to verify that they are both on the same angle. But all I really need to do is put this in here and line that up, and then give that a quick look. And it looks like this is the tiniest bit short, but we can make up for that. So we are going to weld the top in first where we need it. Kind of double check a few things there. And I'll give that a tack. I should have tacked it on the inside here so that I could have had a little swing on the bottom to get that nailed down. Yeah, there that goes. That's alright though, we'll be able to get that back where it was pretty easily. Now we'll tack it on the inside. Just a quick tack, and now you can see I'll be able to add a little bit of a wiggle there and get that right where I want it. Boom, there we go. go. Take a step back. That's what we're looking like. So we'll make an aluminum panel that goes in there. I think we'll make it the full length of it. See how that looks. We can always trim the bottom and the top down if we need, one or the other or both, but I think it'll look pretty good with that whole part with a nice little bead rolled and dimple dyed aluminum panel there, and 2 hellas above it. And we'll deal with cutting the slash on the end of the main top tube there, cap those guys, and then we got to weld on the factory tow hooks to the stub ends there that are sticking out all ugly. I'll clean those up quite a bit before we weld to them, and overall I think it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. If there's maybe one thing I would have done a little different is have the trapezoid there be maybe a little smaller, but like I said, we'll see what it looks like when we make the piece of aluminum. There's still lots of options for this, but I'm really happy with how it's turned out so far. I think that's it for the tubing and notching and bending. Gotta slam this hood down. It doesn't, not a swish. Doesn't like closing, but here it is in its bare form, unpainted. You know, if I wanted to put a lot more effort into it, I'd maybe cut the stubs down to be in line with the angle between these 2 tubes and weld a new plate on it, and then weld the tow hooks to that. I think that would look maybe a little bit better, but also be a bit more work, and at a certain point I just want to call it good. I think it will look a lot better once I get those tow hooks on there, and clean up these edges. I'll radius them to match the radiuses on the tow hook, and once everything is painted, I think it'll look pretty good. But give you kind of a wrap around here of the look. So there we have it.